A picture from the scene from our own Jillian Idle, who is nearby this scene. We have a little bit of information we can tell you. 1502 Miramar Street is where Cape Police say this plane went down. That's real close to the Dolphin Key Resort, almost behind the Dolphin Key Resort. If you're familiar with it, there's a bar there named Sanibel Island. That's real close to where that is. We can tell you that Cape Coral Police sending out this alert just a few minutes ago saying that the Cape Coral Police Department and Fire Department are on the scene. There appears to be minor injuries to the occupant of that plane. They say power lines are down and localized power outages can be expected. In fact, we checked in with the LCEC, and they say about 500 to 2,000 people without power right now.
For In Your Corners, Jillian Idle is actually there on scene right now. And Jillian, what are you learning?
Well, good afternoon, Jane and Chris. That's right. So I was actually working on a story with the police department, and we heard this call. So we responded before even they had police tape up now. But there's dozens of people who've been rushing to the scene. I've been talking to a lot of witnesses. They tell me they were in their homes nearby, and they heard a loud explosion, and then they heard a second loud explosion. So a lot of them were curious, and then they all of a sudden lost power, thinking it was maybe just a transformer that blew. So they came to the corner here. We're off of, like you mentioned, Miramar Street and Cape Coral Street, right outside the Dolphin Key Resort. And there's a small plane that's now upside down. It got tangled in the power lines, and we understand, talking to witnesses, and of course all the emergency responders arrived very shortly after this happened on scene. And talking to witnesses, they tell me that the pilot of this plane was able to get out, and he was sitting across the street from the Dolphin Key Resort, just sitting in the grass when first responders got here. Now, he was taken away in an ambulance, but he was walking when first responders got on the scene, which is crazy considering he got tangled in the power lines, completely crashed, and the plane right now, there's several pieces of it now just laying in the street. Of course, they're setting up a perimeter, and they're asking people, obviously a lot of curious people in the area coming, trying to get video on their cell phones and curious what happened, but they're asking people to stay as far away as possible because it is a dangerous situation with those power lines down right now. But again, talking to witnesses, they said they heard two loud explosions, and then their power went out. So it's for several blocks that the power is out right now. But again, they're asking people to just stay away.
And Jillian, we saw the picture you sent in, and it sounds to you, or it sounds to me like those witnesses are describing hearing an explosion, or what sounded like an explosion. And it looks like from your picture that the plane was never on fire. As you're looking at it now, can you see any flames or any evidence that this plane was ever on fire?
Yeah, and that's the crazy part. So there was no real flames or fire from this. As a precaution, Cape Coral Fire Department was using their hoses and putting water on that, but it is still wrapped up in those power lines. But there was no real flames or anything that was created from this crash, which is crazy, but it did obviously damage the plane. And what's crazy is the pilot was able to jump out as soon as it crashed and roll across the street and sit in the grass until first responders got on scene.
Quite fortunate. That's amazing that the pilot was able to walk on his own power and not get seriously hurt, it sounds like, at least. All right, Jillian Idle live on scene there. We have our crew now on scene getting some live video. They're going to gather more information as we follow this breaking news. A small plane crash in South Cape Coral, just off of Miramar between Cape Coral Street and Del Prado Street near the Dolphin Key Resort.
Yeah, and just to give you an even more broad view of where this is just south of Cape Coral Parkway and Del Prado. So you know that major intersection there, Cape Coral Parkway and Del Prado. It's about 3 or 4 blocks south of that is Miramar Street. Again, what we know right now, and again, this just happened, so we don't have a whole lot of information, but what we know from Cape Coral Police is that there was one person inside that plane, and that person suffered minor injuries. Our Jillian Idle on scene spoke with witnesses who say that person did get in an ambulance and was taken away from the scene. Obviously, we can see firefighters on the scene right now, as well as other emergency personnel. Witnesses, although they described hearing an explosion, it may have been a crash or it could have been something to do with the power lines. But no fire there, and it looks as though the pilot is walking away from this with only minor injuries.
Very fortunate. We'll continue to follow this on our website as well as our Facebook page. So go to fox4now.com, and again, an area to avoid with all of that heavy emergency responding personnel on scene.
Exactly, and we'll have the very latest for you on Fox 4 News at 6.